Greetings and welcome to the United States Transhumanist Party Virtual Enlightenment Salon. My name is Gennady Stolyarov II, and I am the chairman of the U.S. Transhumanist Party. Here we hold conversations with some of the world's leading thinkers in longevity, science, technology, philosophy, and politics. Like the philosophers of the Age of Enlightenment, we aim to connect every field of human endeavor and arrive at new insights to achieve longer lives, greater rationality, and the progress of our civilization. Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our U.S. Transhumanist Party Virtual Enlightenment Salon of Sunday, April 20th, 2025. Now, for those of you who celebrate Easter, happy Easter. We also have another notable event in the transhumanist and life extensionist community today, which is the birthday of Dr. Aubrey de Grey, a leading thinker, scientist, advocate of longevity, of reaching longevity escape velocity. So it is great to celebrate this day, whatever your reasons. And today we hope to bring you an informative discussion about an opportunity to contribute to the knowledge base of the transhumanist movement. In particular, we want to give you a thorough overview of THPedia, which has become, in our view, the leading transhumanist encyclopedia and an open source encyclopedia that encourages contributions from the transhumanist community. And before we give you a demonstration, I would like to discuss just a little bit of the history of THPedia, how it came about, what it grew out of, and what the vision is. So for a decent amount of time, for 9 years between 2015 and 2024, the major open source transhumanist encyclopedia was H+Pedia. And H+Pedia was primarily run by David Wood and Chris Monteiro, who, in my view, did a phenomenal job with it. It has thousands of articles on various elements of transhumanism, key concepts in transhumanism, the history of the transhumanist movement, key figures, organizations, events, developments, and it was very rigorously maintained through, I would say, about 2019. What happened in between was that Chris Monteiro had taken up another predominant pursuit of, let's say, tackling cybercrime. And there are some fascinating articles online about his work in that area. And that has become essentially a predominant activity of his. So he wasn't able to maintain H+Pedia as much. And David Wood continued to maintain it for several years beyond that. But David Wood is also an exceptionally busy individual. He runs the London Futurists. He ran what used to be the Transhumanist Party UK, which had been rebranded as Future Search. He has written a number of books, and more recently he became the executive director of LEVF, the Longevity Escape Velocity Foundation, and I sit on the board of LEVF with him. By the way, LEVF is the organization that carries out the vision of Dr. Aubrey de Grey, who is the president and chief science officer of LEVF. So we are really focused on making sure some key longevity experiments happen. The first robust mouse rejuvenation study just came to a conclusion a couple of months ago, and the second robust mouse rejuvenation study is about to commence. So there's a lot of work there. And in December 2023, David Wood essentially made a post saying he needs to step back from certain responsibilities in order to more effectively address others. And it was at that time that I approached him because one of the responsibilities that he wanted to step back from was maintaining H+Pedia, the transhumanist encyclopedia at the time. So I approached him and I asked him essentially if I could become the administrator of it to continue to run it, because he essentially made an open offer for anybody who was willing to take on that responsibility. And if nobody stepped up, the future of that site was uncertain. And so for the first 6 months of 2024, we did a kind of soft transition where I administered the site behind the scenes, and I continued to maintain the entries, make edits to it, and David still maintained ownership of the domain until that year of registration expired. And then upon expiration in late June of 2024, he transferred that domain to me. So I became the owner of the H+Pedia.org domain. And furthermore, I expanded the site. I added various new articles. I maintained some of the entries. I protected it against spam bots. Unfortunately, spam bots do tend to try to infiltrate sites that become less active, because they may try to insert links to various spurious or dubious products and services. And for a while, that proceeded apace. But then I was approached by the Humanity Plus organization, and essentially what they wanted was to continue H+Pedia as a Humanity Plus branded site. And in a certain way, it made sense, because the name was H+Pedia, and Humanity Plus has H+ as its symbol and has a trademark on a certain stylized version of that symbol. And the original H+Pedia had all of its content licensed as Creative Commons 4.0 international attribution license. So that means that anybody who wants to use that content is able to repost it with attribution to the original. And that was a very intentional decision made by the editors of the original H+Pedia. Chris Montero was a big proponent of open source content with as little restriction to the free dissemination of information as possible. And that's very much a vision that I share as well. So we thought about how to do this, because Humanity Plus wanted its own wiki to take it in its own direction. What I wanted was to preserve the vision of the original H+Pedia. I didn't really need the name, because in my view, H+ isn't really the best way to describe transhumanism as a whole. It's more of a brand for a particular organization. So I decided to rebrand the encyclopedia as THPedia, and essentially propose a fork of the content, so that both I and Humanity Plus had all of the original content, and Humanity Plus would get the H+Pedia domain and would continue to use the name H+Pedia, whereas the open source approach that was pursued all this time during the first 9 years of H+Pedia's existence under David Wood and Chris Montero, and later on under my administration, would be carried through on THPedia. So THPedia is going to have the look and feel of the original H+Pedia, as well as the philosophy behind it, but it's not called H+Pedia anymore, and we have a new logo, a new name, and furthermore, because of the Creative Commons aspect of it, other people may also republish these articles. And what happened in mid-2024 was that Josh Universe approached me, and he said he would like to create an experimental wiki on a site also called THPedia, thpedia.org. And initially, this was an Obsidian-based wiki. It has since been restructured, but this approach of having two sites is a promising one, for the reason that one of the sites can be focused on stability. So having this continuity of content from the original encyclopedia, making sure that it's very familiar to users. They know how to access it, that all of the thousands of pages that are on there are going to stay in a very similar form. There could be incremental edits to them, but there's not going to be any radical or revolutionary changes in either the content or the format. But on the other hand, growth and experimentation are valuable. So Josh's site is intended to do that, to allow for a bit more tinkering and modification and maybe trial and error as well. And we'll look at what works on that site and see if it can be then applied to the stable site, which is th-pedia.org. So we have a question from Mike Lazine. I'll answer it because it's a very easy one. What would the TH stand for in THPedia? TH is simply transhumanism. So whereas some have used H+ as the symbol for transhumanism, and that's really what it was intended to be in the mid to late 2000s, really in practice, H+ has become a brand for Humanity Plus, which is a significant transhumanist organization, but it is one transhumanist organization out of many. So TH is a more universal brand, and we have various open source transhumanist symbols that use TH, and everyone is welcome to use them. So we think this is a better way to enable the growth of an open source encyclopedia. But suffice it to say, what happened was this fork between THPedia and H+Pedia was completed in December of 2024. And we had a few technical issues to resolve, but ultimately what happened was both encyclopedias became improved from a technical standpoint. H+Pedia originally ran on MediaWiki 1.35, and that version was really problematic in various respects. It was very difficult to update it. Ultimately, on the back end, I had correspondence with Chris Lawrence, whom Humanity Plus retained, and he is a very competent and helpful individual. So we figured out ways to upgrade our respective sites. And THPedia was upgraded to MediaWiki version 1.40.1, whereas H+Pedia was upgraded to MediaWiki version 1.39.10. And for those of you who don't know the technical differences, that's not a concern. Just know that these are better, more stable, more secure versions of MediaWiki. So hopefully we'll have fewer security issues going forward. But now what I want to do is a demonstration of th-pedia.org. So this is intended to be the stable site for THPedia. This is intended to be the site that is going to have fewer structural changes going forward, though, of course, content updates are going to happen. But the key premise here is that all of this great body of work that was accumulated in an open source fashion under the administration of David Wood and Chris Montero would be retained and preserved, because this is a very valuable compendium of information. And then the updates would be incremental based on content that is missing or content that might be obsolete or new developments, new information that has emerged since that time. And you can see here on the site, you have a sidebar, you have a welcome page, you have a news archive, a community portal, there's a site for a technical discussion. This list of recent changes is very helpful. So I'll click on this so that you can get an idea of what has happened in the recent past. This is a log of changes, essentially, to give you an idea of what was done, who made what edits to which page, and you can even compare the prior version of the page to the current version. So, for example, let's click on the differences to the Zero State article. So Zero State used to be a transhumanist organization. It was run by Eamon Twyman, and unfortunately, it became defunct sometime during the late 2010s. But it had this website, zerostate.net. I removed the link to that website because that website became infiltrated by spammers. So the domain lapsed and somebody else, some other spamming organization took it over. So we don't want a link to a dubious site. So that was the incremental edit. And you can see exactly what edits were made by whom, what the previous version was, what the more recent version was. So that's a helpful type of resource. You can also go to a random page, and it so happens that the random page link took us to the Transhumanist Council, which is Josh's organization. So we have a THPedia page about that. Then you can click on New Pages, and New Pages will give you a list of the pages that were recently created on THPedia. So you can see which are some of the most recent additions. Then you have other resources here on the sidebar. You have the Facebook group for THPedia. Then there's the link to what currently says experimental wiki. This is thpedia.org spelled all together. This is the site that Josh will be demonstrating today. And then you have the Discord server for THPedia, which Josh has recently formed and operates. Then there's a link to uploading a file, and I'll show you what that looks like. So you can click on Upload File, and you can choose a file from your hard drive, from your computer, and it takes all of these formats that are listed here. You'll be able to specify what it is about as well when you upload it, and I'll show you what you can do with the uploaded files in terms of creating a new article, because we're actually going to go through the process of creating a new article as part of this demonstration. And then you can go to special pages, and these are all sorts of pages here that aren't articles on the site. They have to do more with the site structure and administration and any issues with various pages, like if pages are uncategorized or if certain links are broken, and information about the users, information about recent changes. So it's a very thorough and a very transparent format for MediaWiki. And it is very good that we were able to get THPedia to MediaWiki version 1.40.1, because that is a version that I think is going to be stable for a long time. Now, moving on, let's create an article. And we're going to create an article based on Art Ramon's book, because we know that it doesn't really exist yet. The book was published very recently. We had a Virtual Enlightenment Salon about it not long ago at all. We had it on February 23rd, 2025. So I think creating an article based on this book is going to increase awareness and hopefully help people discover this book. And it's a valuable resource for the transhumanist community. So you may notice what I did here. I put in the title of the book, When Everyone Chose to Live Longer and Create Art, into the search box. And when I did that, the result was there were no results matching the query, but it gave me a prompt. Create the page When Everyone Chose to Live Longer and Create Art on this wiki. So this is what I recommend. If you're wondering, does a particular article exist on THPedia? Do a search before you create an article, because maybe the article exists already and then you wouldn't want to duplicate the work. Then you would want to work off of the existing article entry to make edits. But in this case, we know this article doesn't exist. So let's go ahead and click this page to create it. And there are two options for editing an article. This is the default visual editor, and I'll show you how that works. But then there's also the option for create source. So actually, if we go to create here rather than create source is the interface for actually using code for MediaWiki to specify the contents of the page. And it's a bit more precise, but it's also less user-friendly. So I prefer using the visual editor for MediaWiki as a starting point. So here you can just type in information, and what you see is what you get. So what I will do here is, first of all, say when everyone chose to live longer and create art is a transhumanist children's book on life extension, artificial intelligence, artistic creativity, and a future of superabundance, written by Art Ramon Garcia Jr. And we're going to include a lot more content than that. So what I would do in terms of formatting is I would bold the first term here, and then note here, Art Ramon Garcia Jr. has an entry for him already. So if you click on this link button here, you have the option to add a link. And you can add a link to a THPedia page or to an external site. If you add a link to a THPedia page and you already have this text highlighted, the site will automatically detect whether there's an article by that name. So that's very helpful. We'll click on Art Ramon Garcia Jr. and we've got his article linked here. And for a wiki, it's important to link other pages that are mentioned in this article that already exists, because that's how people navigate among the pages. And likewise for life extension, we know we've got a page on life extension for THPedia. So let's link to that. We've got a page for artificial intelligence on THPedia. Of course we do. Let's link to that. And let's see if we've got a page on superabundance. Superabundance. We don't have a page on that, but we can still create a link to it. And that way, when somebody clicks on this red link here, they're going to have an option to create that page. So maybe somebody will be inspired to create a page on superabundance. So moving forward, I am going to use information from the Amazon page in order to populate this article. And again, the purpose here is just to show what an article looks like. So this is not going to be the final version of this article. This is just intended to give you an example of the capabilities of the interface. And what I will do is I'll paste the description from Amazon, and I will then, of course, cite it as a source. So the description of the book on Amazon reads as follows. And then what I can do here is I can do it as a block quote. So I am citing the text of the Amazon page. That's just the most concise and convenient way I can use right now to insert the content. And then I am going to include a link to the original source, because we always want to cite our sources in a reputable encyclopedia. So I'll go to Cite Basic, and it has this interface as well, which is easy to use. So I can paste the link to the Amazon page, and then I can also describe it here. When everyone chose to live longer and create art, we'll cite the source as Amazon.com, available at this hyperlinked page. And then I will also link the Amazon page directly on the text here. So again, you can choose to link a THPedia page or an external site. In this case, I've linked an external site. Click Done. And then I'll say it was accessed today, April 20th, 2025. Really, whatever style of citation you use here on THPedia is up to you. We are not sticklers for that in the same way that, say, Wikipedia might be or an academic journal might be. The key is you cite your sources and they're accessible to people, and they're live links to real sites that exist elsewhere online. So we'll insert this, and you can see here now there is this hyperlinked note that will appear as a footnote in the final article. Now, furthermore, what you can do is you can insert an image. And you go to Insert, you click on Images and Media, and then there is a search option. You can also upload a file. I'm not going to do that right now because I already prepared the book cover for being uploaded to THPedia. So I can click on this, click Use this image, and then I can describe it via captions. So I will say book cover for When Everyone Chose to Live Longer and Create Art. And I'll say it was designed by R. Ramon Garcia Jr. So I click Insert here, and you can see the image with the caption has been inserted. Now you can also insert a heading. So for this heading, I will call it Book Description. Again, this is just a very literal heading for what we've cited from the Amazon page. And then I will create another heading for Virtual Enlightenment Salon, because I want to input this as a resource regarding the book's history. So now we can say on February 25th, 2000, I think it was actually February 23rd. Yes. So February 23rd, 2025, the US Transhumanist Party held a Virtual Enlightenment Salon. And then I will paste a bit from this description where Art Ramon discussed when everyone chose to live longer and create art, and answered audience questions. Okay, so what we can do here, first of all, is hyperlink to US Transhumanist Party. There's a THPedia article on that. Hyperlink to Virtual Enlightenment Salon. There's not yet a THPedia article on that, so it'll be in red, but we plan to have a major article on our Virtual Enlightenment Salons. And then what we can also do, we can cite the YouTube page for the Virtual Enlightenment Salon. So we will do that. And here we go to the site, basic, and we've got this YouTube link. We will include the name of it here. And then we'll include the date as well. So that was February 23rd, 2025, available at this YouTube page here. And to make sure we edit the hyperlink because there were some artifacts in the URL. that we might not have wanted to be there. So let's see about that. I think this might be correct, actually. So now we can insert this, and I'll show you another feature here with regard to embedding content. So first of all, I'm going to save this page. It's a little bit easier to embed content in source mode rather than in the visual editor. So I've saved the page, and now you can see this article exists. It's live on
Looks like we lost Gennady.
Yeah.
Let's see. Yeah, let's just wait for him to get back on here. Yeah, when I was working on my page, my Art Ramon Garcia page, I actually created it using Notebook LM. I drew sources from my website and I think my Amazon profile, other profiles, and I had it create my my biographical information. Then I used the ChatGPT to sort of format it. I didn't use the visual formatting tool.
Right. Yeah.
I
hopefully
had,
we plan to like make it to where it's optional. Someone can enable or disable an optional AI editor. So when they edit on THPedia, they can optionally turn an AI editor on to like help them write their article.
Okay.
But when they do that, it's going to say this article was written with the assistance of AI.
Okay, cool.
And then like tag with like the Google AI meta tag. Oh, there it is. Perfect.
Gennady, you there? Okay. I can't hear you yet. I think you're muted. Not yet. Can't hear you yet. Here, the icon says you're unmuted, so might be something with your phone. Oh, yeah. Maybe his computer crashed on him. But
all right, we'll wait for him.
Yeah, I use ChatGPT to generate the code, so
yeah,
it directly did all the whatever hypermark language that it uses.
Yeah, like if I have something in Obsidian, I'll take it, put it into ChatGPT, say, hey ChatGPT, take this text that I have in Obsidian that I've written, convert it to, I think it's like wiki text. That's what it's called. Wiki text is the Markdown language.
Wiki text.
Then you can paste it in, review it, make sure things cited and stuff, and then publish it.
Gennady?
Hello. Yes,
Okay.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, very good.
Perfect.
Yes, my apologies. My internet connection just completely timed out, disappeared. I've been having internet issues like this intermittently over the past few weeks. But please continue the conversation. I'm going to have to re-enable my screen sharing when my internet connection hopefully gets restored. But if you go to th-pedia.org, what you will see now is the beginnings of the article that I walked you through on Art Ramon's book. And when my main internet connection gets restored, we can do the final step, which is to embed a video of that Virtual Enlightenment Salon. But yes, here you can see the article that we worked on, and you can see the source mode as well. But I think this is a good demonstration of the capabilities of th-pedia.org. Also, keep in mind, if you had an H+Pedia account back through 2024, your username and login for that account should work on THPedia as well. So if you made edits to the previous H+Pedia, you should continue making edits to THPedia in essentially the same manner that you've been accustomed to. So now I would like to ask Josh to present THPedia.org spelled all together. This is the more experimental site that he has been working on, and hopefully you will see some of the beneficial features of that site and the capabilities that it makes available, and a similar demonstration from Josh on how to use THPedia.org. All right, Josh, please go ahead.
Alrighty, so let's go over a brief presentation so everyone can understand what THPedia is, and then go over what is THPedia and compare THPedia to H+Pedia and a few other transhumanist wikis. So first, about me, I'm a student at Florida Tech studying space sciences and commercial enterprise in space. I'm founder of the International Biohacking Community and Transhumanist Council. I do content for Viva City, which is like a startup city, network state. And then I do space videos on Facebook, Instagram, and all the other platforms. So, what is THPedia? Differences between THPedia and TH-Pedia, and then some QR codes to register for THPedia and some other transhumanist platforms. First, what is THPedia? So, THPedia is a fork from H+Pedia, which is ran by Humanity Plus. The new experimental THPedia was formed on February 15th, 2025. It was forked from H+Pedia, and on April 8th, I formed the THPedia working group, which is like a Discord server, and we have 12 members so far. So let's go over a comparison of some of the other transhumanist wikis. So we have ours. Some pros is I've done extensive security hardening on the origin and on the cloud, the edge. Basically saying before someone gets to the actual origin, they come through the edge, which is a proxy server. It does hundreds of checks from the client before they're able to actually enter the site, which helps prevent normal bots and AI bots. Modern theme, which you'll see, you can also change it back to the original theme that you saw in the other wiki. I'll show you how to do that. Active contributor group, aka the working group, and yeah, mobile friendly UI. So on mobile, you can go and click on the bottom. There's a little toolbar, and you can click, and it'll show you contribute, and it'll show you new pages, recent pages, and all that, which I don't think I've seen on the other one, but I'll help him get that taken care of. On-site encrypted backups, remote encrypted backups, knowing that there is several layers of data redundancy within it to help improve that stability. And yeah, soon we're gonna have a few other features like a native mobile app, aka you can download an app from the App Store or Google Play, sign in, edit pages, view pages, patrol pages if you're a moderator, and then an AI model. Basically, it'll be trained on the data of THPedia. So you can ask it, you can chat with it, and it'll tell you about transhumanism, some different people, some of the different organizations. And it allows us to leverage this new technology, but still have it take the data from a very reliable and long-standing data source. Some of the cons, it's only been up for a few months, which, with any project that can lead to, some instability just with it being a new project. Inconsistent new features, this can be a con too, as in, you might log in one day, there might be a button on the sidebar, right, that has the little AI chatbot. So it's, with the TH-Pedia, it's going to be the same, right? It's always going to be the same. It's going to be consistent. If you go 100 years, it's going to look the same, be very consistent. For the new THPedia, there's going to be some features. Mostly we aim to keep the UI very consistent, so you can log in, it doesn't affect reading pages or editing pages. But there might be some new features, and that might have a slight effect on okay, there's something new on the sidebar, there's a new link in the navigation bar. So TH-Pedia, it's been up for years. Super stable, maintained by Gennady, super well-respected individual. And so let's see here. Familiar experience to THPedia, to H+Pedia, sorry. So yeah, it's forked from H+Pedia. Sorry, the typo. H+Pedia. Cons. Limited mobile navigation, normal security. Limited new features, which is a pro and a con. Let's see here. I just had something pop up from a friend. Okay. H+Pedia, original wiki fork. So this is like made like 10 years ago. So this is the original fork of THPedia. There's a lot of cons. Limited mobile navigation. It's been outdated for 3 years. It's on like 1.39.10. So there's like a lot of security vulnerabilities. I was looking at the CVEs, which is like a short term for security vulnerabilities, and there's a lot of them. Limited security hardening, we've talked about that just from me seeing like what H+Pedia looked like when I was importing it. They didn't really do much hardening, which is kind of a concern. Generally, it should be fine with MediaWiki stability, but you just never know. And then yeah, there's no editing in the last 30 days, which I mean that could be a good thing, saying like the content there is reliable. But that could be a bad thing too with regards to activity. The transhumanism fandom, there's a large volume of traffic. All right, I administer it, and there's also dedicated editors that will just come in every few days and update articles, create articles. So yeah, controlled by fandom, which usually if it's controlled by like another organization that they don't specialize in transhumanism, that could be kind of concerning. Limited control over updates, as in like I can't install like the AI chatbot extension. Question from Mike Lazine. Let's see here, or Daniel tweet, does THPedia have any policies similar to Wikipedia, such as no self-promotion, no selling, etc.? So with regard to that, we allow a bit more like inclusion, because Wikipedia is known as a general wiki, so they will let everything, they'll cover all different topics. So with regard to that, and like trying to keep up with all sorts of data, they're going to have stricter inclusion policies. So maybe if there's like a very new transhumanism startup or transhumanism group or something, they're not going to be as likely to want to include it until they know that it's been around for a while, it's existed, there's other mentions and like different types of articles and stuff, just because it is a very broad wiki. Yeah, and then Jason asked what if it's a page about a person. The same thing, there's going to be more inclusion. I mean, if the person on, with regard to TH-Pedia or THPedia, if they exist and they, they're working on some type of project, like a publicly facing project, I would say that would definitely be grounds for inclusion. I don't think they need to have like a Forbes article or whatever to be included, just because transhumanism is a much more smaller community. I think it's important to recognize newer projects, newer works, or people just entering the space. So there's a much lighter inclusion policy. On the other hand, if someone unrelated to transhumanism has like a page or something, then that's when we might take a look at the page, discuss with the editors, be like, okay, is there any relation to this person with regards to transhumanism? Even though it's a wiki, it's a topical wiki, aka it's about transhumanism. So if there's someone who has no relation to transhumanism, they're likely to be removed since it's not pertinent to the other articles within the wiki. So, okay, let's continue. So, and then there's a few other wikis. The Institute for Emerging Ethics and Technology, their wiki was closed. Transhumany, Techno-Libertarianism, TNC, tons of wikis. They've all been closed down, unfortunately. So these are like the main wikis that exist. So yeah, and if you want to join, make sure to have your phone ready. I've got some QR codes. Links will also be shown. You can go to our primary website, transhumanism.app, and it'll show where you can just click THPedia, which that might be faster if you don't have your phone on you or you're going to join via desktop. All right, THPedia. So once again, it is a platform to spread accurate, accessible, and non-sensational information about transhumanism, futurism, radical life extension, and other emerging technologies. Here's the QR code for the homepage. Here's the QR code for the sign-up page. Gennady.
I can answer that question from Mike Lazine.
Okay.
So he wonders, did I write my own page for THPedia or did someone else write it up for me? So the initial page about me on THPedia was created by Chris Montero back in 2016, and he actually reached out to me to ascertain the accuracy of various items and request for essentially additional content to be added to that entry, and I helped him out with that. And then over time, I did expand my entry as well, because this was after Chris Montero had stepped away from managing H+Pedia, and so I continue to add on to my entry in terms of citations of my works and also events that had happened or articles that had cited me. And I saw this entry about me on H+Pedia as actually a staging ground for publicly available information about me, both just strictly factual information as well as people's feedback about me. So this article about me on THPedia includes some critical commentary that others have written as well. But what I was thinking of the purpose of this article as being is as a kind of repository of information about me for transhumanists to access, but also anybody who wants to make constructive edits to my Wikipedia entry can find sources on that page that they could cite, and some of those sources may pass Wikipedia's own criteria for sources that they accept, whereas others might not. So that is a brief summary about how the entry about me has been treated on H+Pedia, then THPedia, and also the entry for the US Transhumanist Party. But I'll emphasize the open source aspect, so others are welcome to contribute information as long as it's valid, factual information. So Josh, please
Perfect.
continue.
Excellent. Perfect. Okay. We also have a working group. So this is like a Discord server. So if you can scan this, it'll take you into our Discord, and then I'll show you a really cool feature in the next slide. So I'll give you a moment if you guys want to join here. Alrighty, now we also have this really cool feature. It's called the patrol feed, and this is within our Discord, not the working group Discord, but the main Discord, the Transhumanist Council Discord, and that's also on our main website. And you'll see here that when people do edits, it'll show, hey, I created an article, and this is like template index. It's like a system backend thing. It'll show, okay, this person created an article. Here's how long it is. Here's the page name. Hey, you can click onto the page. You can click onto the user. So this also helps us detect, okay, did a spam bot somehow get through and create, a spam page, or is there a page that shouldn't really be within the wiki, or, if it's off topic, or if it's just spam in general. So this shows in the main Discord, and it shows in the wiki feed channel. Yeah, if you wanted to contribute to the fandom too, just because that does get a large volume of traffic, you can. You can scan this QR code. Note that you will have to make an account on fandom.com, which just, if you are privacy conscious, you are trusting fandom.com with your information. So that is kind of like a trade-off. But fandom has a high domain authority, meaning if you search something about transhumanism, the fandom wiki is more likely going to show up compared to one of the THPedia wikis or H+Pedia, just because fandom has that higher domain authority in general. Let's see here. Jason said, so I'm guessing you can embed a YouTube video, but you cannot upload an audio file that opens up in a player. That is actually a good question. I believe for MediaWiki, you would need an extension for that. But if that's something you would like, I'm happy to include it. I'm sure Gennady would be too.
Yes, I support the inclusion of any additional features that allow the embedding of content from various sources, various media formats, if it becomes possible to upload even video files, MP3 files, of short length, preferably. I know Wikipedia has some options for audio uploads as well, like if there's a Wikipedia entry about a composer, you can hear some excerpts from that composer's work. But I would actually like to show, since Jason mentioned the embedding of videos, I'll briefly shift to my screen sharing and show where I left off here with the editing of Art Ramon's article. So right now we're in the source mode for editing, and you can see this is the MediaWiki markup language. And it's a bit different from HTML for those of you who are used to HTML. But you can see everything we added is in this format where you have text and you have some similarities to HTML code, but I want to go down here below the Virtual Enlightenment Salon description. I'm going to insert this line of code here. You can see two brackets on each side, and these are these, I'll often call them math summation brackets, but this is the particular way to insert a YouTube link. You have #EV:YouTube, and then you have the vertical slash, and you have the YouTube URL here, followed by another vertical line here, and center is the alignment. You could also specify the dimensions in another, let's say, segmentation of these vertical lines, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to use the default dimensions. And here under summary, you can indicate what changes you made. This is good for the log of changes to know what edit corresponds with what substantive revisions. So I will say here, added embedded video Virtual Enlightenment Salon. I've done this before, so it auto-suggested it. So I'll click on Save Changes, and then you can see now in the publicly viewable version of this article, you can access the embedded video, and you can play the YouTube video right from here. So this is a known feature of THPedia, and it works on both the old and new site. You can embed a YouTube video. That's quite helpful because a lot of our recent content for the US Transhumanist Party and more generally in the transhumanist, life extensionist movements has been in the form of video conversations. So now we have a pretty good start to that entry, but by all means, if anybody has more details to add or other sources to cite for Art Ramon's book, Art Ramon, if you yourself want to go back and edit this page at any point in time, please feel free to do that. So I'm by no means suggesting that this is some sort of final version of it. I just wanted to create a page for this book and show some of the features of th-pedia.org. Also, now when you return to the main page, you're going to see it appear. So under recently added pages here, under recently added pages, you're going to see this new article at the very top. So when everyone chose to live longer and create art will now be at the very top. And you'll see other recently added articles as well. And you can also see here under random featured article, we have a few articles in rotation which have been elevated to featured status. And when you refresh the main page or when you leave the main page and navigate back to it, a different one of these will appear. So we have one on the US Transhumanist Party, we have one on the Transhumanist Council, we have one on Zoltan Istvan, we have one on me, we have one on Charlie Cam, we have some others that were original to H+Pedia, like a comparison diagram of different transhumanist and futurist related positions. We also have some summary information here on THPedia. For instance, the mission of THPedia, it is a project to spread accurate, accessible, non-sensational information about transhumanism, futurism, radical life extension, and other emerging technologies and their potential collective impact on humanity. And this is a running total of how many pages we've got. So we currently have 5,068 pages of all types. 1,473 are articles, 647 have files uploaded, and a total of 32,365 edits have been made. Hopefully we can get the number of active users up. We've had a bit of a transition period, but one purpose of this salon is to get more people motivated. And then you have key topics that have a lot of coverage by THPedia. You have this list of random articles, like you can click on one, and here's an article about Ray Kurzweil's book, The Singularity is Near When Humans Transcend Biology. And it's a famous book, but one thing that I've noticed already is there is this video that was embedded here a long time ago, and it is now unavailable. So it has been taken private by the content creator, and we're going to need to edit the source and say essentially either where a newer upload of this video is, or where a comparable video is available that might have the same content or a very similar presentation by Ray Kurzweil. But that's something we'll do during a different time. You can also view the history of a particular page. So you can see this one was last updated on April 1st, 2019. And we're going to want to update it further. And furthermore, there's another book that Ray Kurzweil recently published, The Singularity is Nearer. It was published last year, so we're going to need an entry about that. So now, Josh, if you'd like to conclude your presentation, please feel free.
Alrighty, we will be going back into the presentation. So we had time to scan that. Now, if you guys want to visit the main website, you can fill out our involvement form, and you can also access THPedia again just by going to transhumanism.app and click THPedia, or scan one of these QR codes. Announcement, we had a new reading group, which is the Transhumanist Philosophy Reading Group by Gennady on Discord. So if you're interested in reading any philosophy with regard to transhumanism, please join. There's weekly voice calls, and yeah, forums. And mobile apps. Alrighty, and let's go over to our website. So first, you're going to notice this looks very different. Oh my god, what is going on here? Okay, so let's go over how to first customize it, because maybe you may not like the dark mode, maybe you may not like the text size. So if you see this little settings icon over here, you can click that. Go over here. And here, you can click the text size, so you can set to small, standard, or large. Right, so this is good for accessibility. Maybe you have a hard time seeing information and you need to make the text bigger. We have that option. You can change the color to auto. So basically, if you have like dark mode enabled on your system, it will respect that. Same if you have a light mode. You can manually change it to light mode or dark mode. And then if you are a complete night owl, you may not be able to see it because of the little ticker at the bottom. But there's a thing called pure black mode. You can turn that on, and then it's an OLED mode. So if you have an OLED screen, it'll turn off all those pixels and help save some battery too. Let's turn it to light so you guys can see, and let's make the text large. Okay, so first we have a little banner here. We have some navigation hills. So you want to join our Discord, you can click this to go to our community panel. So this shows our different working groups. This shows our backlog. This is Longevity Chan. It's like an anime representation for longevity. Some site mergers. This is stuff we're working on merging with other wikis, and some of them are offline. You can use a thing called the Internet Archive by going to archive.org, and then you can go and help continue to merge some of these wikis. And then you go over here, websites, and yeah, just some outreach information, some reviews, and then some editorial proceedings. You can see the new pages that were created. So I've created a few pages here, and some article issues, right? So if you're new to editing on wikis, and you're like, okay, what can I do, right? Go over here, go to article issues. review missing citations or review disputed facts, right? And that'll usually be on the talk page, which I'll show you in a bit. You can wikify articles, which means saying you have a piece of information about transhumanism. You have the U.S. Transhumanism Party. There is a statement about the U.S. Transhumanism Party on this transhumanist wiki page. You can create a link on that transhumanist wiki page to the transhumanist party, which will help kind of combine that information, and especially on Google. It's going to help it show up higher in Google, so people who are looking for that information are going to be able to find it easier. So let's go back to the home page. Let's go over to the navigation bar. So if you click this right here, it's going to show navigation, community, and contribute. So basically, if you went to THPedia and you looked at this sidebar right here, this right here is what this is showing, right? So we have our main page, which is this, recent changes. So that's the same thing, right? All of the core fundamental ways of interacting and editing THPedia is the exact same as the stable version or H+Pedia, right? It's all the same, it's just a new system. So you can see all the different edits, who edited it, how many characters, so you can compare the pages. You can go over here and say, okay, I want to see 500 edits in the last 7 days, right? If somehow there's 500 edits at some point, right? You can also see, okay, let's see all the edits in 30 days. You can go over, see all the edits. You can click through. Let's go back home. And let's go over here and go to random page. So as I put in the comments earlier, clicking random page will help you do a thing called patrolling pages, which is basically saying, okay, I don't know what I want to do, but I want to help in some way clean up the content, review some of the content, fix some of the grammar. You can just go to the navigation and click random page. It'll take you to a completely random article, and you can go through and read it. Okay, are there any grammatical mistakes on this article? Is there something I can potentially wiki link? Okay, can I link another article to this page? So you can go over, and okay, this looks pretty good. So you can go over and go to another page, right? It's going to show another page. Okay, this video is private. Okay, so let's talk about the talk page. So if you click this thing called discussion, and you go over here, you could say, okay, but you can put the dates. You can say April 20th, 2025. Issue regarding video embed. And you can type out the issue. So you could say, there is an issue with the video embed on this page. May either the original page creator or another editor try to identify a current version of this video. If none such exists, could you provide some descriptive context if appropriate. So the talk page allows you to communicate with different editors on THPedia. So say there's a big page, right? And there's kind of like maybe one main contributor. So Chris contributed and maintained a lot of pages back in the day, right? So this feature would be good if there was someone who created the page and consistently maintains it, like checks it. So you can also like do a thing called watching pages, which means if there is an edit, you will be notified of the edit. Besides going into Discord and then seeing the patrol log, you can still see, okay, there was an edit to my page. Let me look on the talk page and see, okay, what did this person ask about? So, okay, there's an issue regarding the video embed. Let me go through and let me fix it. So you can click summary, opened discussion regarding video embed. And it's also good just to click by user, just to show like who created it, because there is an extension which you're already gonna work on, but by default, if you edit this and you just save it, say I save it like this, so they're gonna look and be like, okay, who said this, right? So what you want to do is put dash universe. And you can also wiki link it to your actual user /Josh Universe profile or user /Gennady Stolyarov profile. Click Save Changes. And this basically allows you to keep a log of the different changes. And while it may not be appropriate for something like a simple fix, right? Or maybe there's grammar that needs to be fixed, right? You're most likely just going to go fix that yourself. But if there is an article that has a lot of contention, there's a lot of points that people are debating. Maybe it's a political article, and there's a certain political topic that is very contrasting from people on one side of the aisle and the other side. This page is going to be extremely useful for such articles, right? And these are usually some of the bigger pages, or especially newer pages. So yeah, people are going to go through and they're going to kind of discuss, go back and forth, and try to hopefully come to a middle ground. If not, then we'll bring it to a community vote. So yeah, that's been about the talk page. Let's go back. Help about MediaWiki. This is just like a general meta page, just about the MediaWiki software. You can also go to special pages, and it shows this is the same thing. This is more of the back end stuff, right? So if you're looking for, you know, pages with all the info boxes, right? Maybe there's an info box that's broken. You need to see all the pages. You can see the categories, the category tree, which is kind of cool. So go to look at that. You can see, okay, this is the key category, transhumanism, and then you can, so it's the parent category. You can see all the children categories of transhumanism. You can also expand them, right? And this helps to keep a very organized and structured content management system. So it's basically like a CMS, right? You're categorizing this content and you're adding subcategories. So if someone was interested in transhumanism, maybe they didn't want to read the whole article, they could just go here and they could see all the different categories of transhumanism, like the main ideas, main principles, main topics of transhumanism. And they can keep going down the categories, right? This is, I mean, that's a very it's like a rabbit hole. Like you can go down and really learn about it. But also if you're trying to maintain or patrol the wiki, this is also a very handy page. So go back, upload file, same thing, right? This is the same thing as the other one. So for this, you do have to log in, and then it will allow you to upload files. And this, once again, is for spam bot protection, because when someone uploads a file, even though we do have the file size limited, they can just try to go through and use different IP addresses and try to upload files from different locations, which could, in the long term, reduce the integrity of THPedia, and we want to prevent that. Community, this is pretty self-explanatory, right? Yes, Zalmi Redmi 13 said parent-child as in programming. Yes, correct. So yes, community, you can join the Discord, Facebook group, LinkedIn group, forums, Transhumanist Media, which is like a little media site we're working on, the fandom, which is another wiki, right? So if you want to contribute on THPedia, hop on over to the Transhumanist fandom wiki and do some edits, you can do so. Community portal we already went over, wanted pages. So these are pages that we're waiting. Yeah, I mean, someone is linked to some of these pages. And go over here. So someone will go over here and be like, okay, I want this page to be made, but I don't have time. Let me link it in this article, and then it'll show up on wanted pages. So this is also good if you want to spend some time and help contribute to the wiki. Go to wanted pages, create a page. And yeah, so let's go back. And the THPedia News Archive, which this is kind of cool. This is a historical documentation of THPedia and H+Pedia. This is a running log. So this shows, hey, it's upgraded to 1.40.1. That's awesome, right? That's more security benefits. Hey, there's an experimental wiki. Oh, we're on the experimental wiki, right? New administration. This is awesome. New direction for THPedia, right? And it shows this running log. So if you want to learn about the history of THPedia and understand maybe some of the culture and context on some pages or some particular edit, this can help. If you do have the time, I highly recommend to go over and read this. So let's go back home. And then the welcome page, this is just like a general hey, welcome to THPedia, all right? Created your account, tells you about THPedia, shows you some videos about it, shows you some documentation by MediaWiki, which is what THPedia and H+Pedia is built on. That's like the code base it's built on. Yeah, some principles which are important, right? So it's saying, yeah, we want nonsensical, non-biased information. You know, we want to have references as this is a wiki, even though it's not Wikipedia. And, you know, some may view Wikipedia as like the, you know, the most maintained or whatever wiki. We still have those principles to ensure the information is non-biased, it's thoroughly researched. And so people who are genuinely interested about transhumanism can go to these articles and actually get proper information. Let's go back. So we went over here, we have our topics, right? These are some very like key articles. So you can click on in and learn more about some of these articles. And let's edit an article. So let's go over to, let's go over here. Category, and let's go to, let's go to Alcor. Perfect. So we can go over here. So there's two buttons. This one with the pencil is called the visual editor. This one is called the code editor. So we click this, and it looks just the same. It looks just like you're reading it, right? So we can go over and look at the text and go over here. See, we need to make an article for James Bedford, or check on the other wikis and see if there's an article. External links, right? See if alcor.org, which is our website. And yeah, so you can go over, do the same thing. So you can click insert, images and media, template, table, comment, gallery, tabber, and references list. You can go over here and click a bullet list, a numbered list, and you can also decrease and increase indentation. So say if you have a parent bullet point, you can also have child bullet points, right? So you have the first indentation, you create another bullet point, you go over and click this button right here, increase indentation, and this allows you to keep a very structured bullet point list, which can also be helpful on talk pages if you're trying to address specific points in a very quick way. You can also cite information, add a link. So there's two different types of links. One is a wiki link. So let's go over here, Transhumanist. We can go over here, click this, and you can go over here. There's two things. There's THPedia and there's external site. External site is what it sounds like, right? It takes you to a website, right? You can go here, alcor.org, right? Then when you click done, you click this, it'll take you to alcor.org. The other one, which is most used, is called a wiki link. So this is linking from one piece of content to another. We've already talked about the SEO advantages. So we can go over here, we can search transhumanism. Right? So you have these are pages, right? These are just normal pages. This is what someone's going to see when they search for information on Google. Well, here's the thing. It says their CEO is a transhumanist. Okay. Well, transhumanist is actually a thing called a category. A category is a grouping of pages, right? So if you have several different pages about who are transhumanist people, transhumanist figures, well, okay, how can we organize the information? We're going to use a category. So if we want to wiki link to that category, type in category transhumanist. And then you can go over here, and then you can click, is it a politician? Is it an organization? Is it a political organization? Or if you don't see it, you can either do two things. You can create a new category, or you can also link to the parent category, right? So you click with this, save changes. And just one important note, whenever you are saving changes, say, what did you do? Why did you edit this article, right? This helps to keep an accurate log of edits, and this also helps if there are discussions on the talk page, especially with contentious pages, to be able to see, for someone to go through and see, okay, this is why this person edited the page, this is what the person did, without having to go through the diff, which is basically comparing the old version to the new version, right? So adding general category, right? And then this is a minor edit, right? It's one thing. Click Save Changes. And you'll also notice when we save those changes, there's an option to watch this page. So now if someone goes over and does an edit, right? Say Gennady wants to go over and edit the Alcor Life Extension Foundation, I will be notified down here, right? It'll say Gennady Stolyarov edited the Alcor Life Extension Foundation page. I can click it and be like, okay, those are good edits, awesome. So you can go back to the home page. And yeah, I think that seems to be it. Let me make sure I didn't miss anything.
I will say one noteworthy comment on the Alcor page, if you could go back to it, this
Of
speaks to the
course.
importance of maintaining these pages. So Alcor has a new CEO now as of mid-2024, and actually it had gone through several CEOs after Max Moore departed. We don't have a page yet for James Arrowwood. I did meet him and have the opportunity to hear his presentation at the Global Cryonics Summit in July of 2024. But the suggested language that I have to replace that statement about the CEO is their CEO as of mid 2024 is James Arrowwood JD, but any type of language you would like to put in there would be reasonable as long as it's accurate. But yes, what I would ideally want to do in such a situation, and this is a project for later, would be to create a list of CEOs and their tenures. So Max Moore was a very long-serving CEO of Alcor, and I would want to essentially specify what dates did he serve as CEO, and then his successor was Patrick Harris, and then they had a period where they had two co-CEOs, and then James Arrowwood became the only CEO of Alcor. So all of that ought to be specified. The more detail, the better, because then people would know more about the history of this organization in a transparent fashion. But yes, this is just an example of why it's so important to maintain these pages, because new developments do happen in the transhumanist community. And we want THPedia to be a resource for people to visit and see perhaps what did happen in the past few years with each of these organizations or people or currents of transhumanist thought.
Indeed. All right.
Please
So
continue.
let's go over to Max Moore, right? We said their CEO is James Arrowwood, formerly Max Moore. So let's click this. And let's see here. Let's see if anyone has updated. So, okay, there is a missing thumbnail. So let's go and find a thumbnail of Max Moore. So let's see if he has a Wikipedia page. He does. Perfect. Let's go over here and let's see here. This is Creative Commons. Perfect. Let's download it. Perfect. And there's a credits. See, good. Always make sure when you're adding an image to ensure that it is Creative Commons. So let's go ahead and click Edit using the visual editor as denoted by the pencil icon. And let's go over here. And so it shows the file. Okay, hey, there's a thumbnail missing. So we can go through, edit it, and we'll add a redirect too. So let's go back over here and go over here. Let's delete that. There we go. Change image. Let it load. All right, let me find it. There we go. And then we'll add the attribution in a moment. So let's click upload. And let's go and compress this. And this is also to help reduce the amount of storage that THPedia will take. So it's always good. Let's go over here, upload, here, compress it. And then there you go. So now we can upload our compressed image over here. There we go. Perfect. Let's verify the name of this so it's historically accurate. Yep, this is 2006. This looks good. And square crop. Next more. Let's add Stanford. See here, that is 2006 Stanford Summit. no information about the summit name, so let's just do this. And let's save. All right, let's go here. It's saying, hey, there is a file that already exists. So this is an image which appears to be the same image. So let's go over here and let's go here. File. Yep, okay. So let's upload over here. Let's see here. Script. Okay, let's do this. Clean it up. Delete. Perfect. Let's go back. And let's go ahead and re-add the file. So general, change image, upload, and go over here. There we go. Upload. And let's go and add a description. Max Moore at a 2006 Stanford Summit. Perfect. Save the image. Let's use this image. Let's apply changes. There we go. Awesome. There's Mr. Max Moore. And let's see if the, yep, here we go. CEO president for 6. So let's go and see when he left his position as CEO of Alcor. So CEO of Alcor. Okay, 2020. Let's check the facts of this. It should be factually relevant, but let's make sure. Let's go over here. Stuff. It's always important when you are going through and making edits to the pages to actually go through and take the time. You may see something, Google may be like, okay, this is right information. I do recommend, please take the time, go through to the original source and confirm. So it's more, yep, here you go, May 2020. So let's go back over here and his position as C. We can also just do this. Let's do this. From, go to the Internet Archive. Let's see here. Let's see here. 2015. From 2015 to mid-2022. Perfect. Whoa, thank you, Celeste Casado, for the $49.99 super chat. Here we go.
Yes, thank you very much, Celeste. We appreciate your generous support as always.
Tenure, dates. And this is a minor edit. Click save.
Yes, I think he was CEO until May 2020, not 2022. And he was CEO from 2011, but this is already stated on the page. So you don't need to say from 2015. You can say in a separate sentence, he served in the position of CEO until May 2020. So put a period after 1986 and say he served as CEO until May 2020.
Yeah, let's do that for better. He served his position as CEO until, there we go. Save that. There we go. So now we've went through the page, we've updated the image, ensured that it is properly captioned, and then we've also updated his tenure status. So now we can go back to the home page, and now we can go over here, and yeah, I think that should be everything. Let's go over to our profile, actually. So when you make an account on THPedia, you can actually make a profile. This is like a social profile, right? Not just like a user page where it just shows like your name. If you wanted to, you can add a little image. You can add your Twitter account, your Mastodon account, or any other respective instance, or your Discord username. You can also put a little caption. So you could say like, I'm a science communicator, so you can go over here, say, this is a science communicator, right? Put a little subtitle. You can add your Discord, your Twitter, and your Mastodon. There we go. And then you can also, just like any other page, you can add whatever text. So we do have plans in the future to make this a bit more robust, add more support for different social links, add also like your working groups. So say we go back over here to our community portal. So say if you're in one of these working groups, we'll also add that to your profile. And then further down the road, we plan to make it so when you create an account, you can go to our forums, biohacking.forum, and you can sign in with your account on biohacking.forum. It'll import all your profile information, all of your working groups, so it allows it to be very consistent. And you don't have to like create multiple accounts, right? Keep your account in one place. And if you don't want to, you can still create a separate account on THPedia. So let's go through. Also, if you're interested in any beta features, this is just, you can go over here to beta features. You can enable or disable beta features. We have our content translation feature, and then you can also go through your other profile settings. You can also, this is unique, you can enable two-factor authentication. So say you want to have more account security, even if you're like a key editor or not, or like a moderator or whatever, I recommend for everyone, please just take the time to enable two-factor authentication. So you can go over here and click manage, and then it'll show like a little QR code, and then you scan it with your phone using an app called Google Authenticator or whatever authentication method you like. Basically, when you log in, it'll ask for your username, your password, but then it'll also ask you for that second code, which helps to further secure your account. And we also do have a few measures for to prevent things like cookie hijacking, AI bots, all that stuff. So yeah, and then if you speak a different language, you can click here, choose your language. And also for articles, you can go through and actually translate articles into different languages. Because transhumanism is not just in North America. It's not just for people who speak English. It is for everyone around the world, regardless of what language you speak, regardless of where you live, regardless of what side on the political aisle you're on. We want to make transhumanism accessible, accurate, nonsensical, and global. So yeah, that is THPedia. I'm going to provide the links if you guys want to contribute, and I'll have those up for a minute. And yeah, please ask me any questions.
Yes, thank you very much, Josh, and we'll keep the QR codes up for a bit. We do have some questions from our audience. First, a comment from Mike Lazine. How very professional of you, Josh, to have a non-discriminatory and unbiased overview of different transhumanist wikis. Yes, I think this is important to consider what is out there and what information people have available to them. I think it's good that there are many different projects, many different people trying to spread information about transhumanism. We do want THPedia to become a hub for this kind of information curation in an open source manner. As Josh outlined, there are many advantages of THPedia, and in particular, having the structure of a more stable site and a site that's more open to experimentation will enable us to get the best of both worlds. And furthermore, the more people get involved, the better. So this isn't going to be a project for just one organization. It's going to be a project for the entire community, and people with different backgrounds, different knowledge about transhumanism, and different subfields thereof, or adjacent communities or concepts, or the history of transhumanism, can join in this effort and help make edits, again, with a focus on factual content. And Josh has again linked to the THPedia working group. Now, I do want to pull up a description. This is from THPedia itself, in terms of how THPedia is similar to and how it's different from Wikipedia. So it says, THPedia aims to follow the principles of Wikipedia. At the same time, the THPedia editorial team seek to demonstrate greater awareness and appreciation of transhumanism and radical futurism. This will be reflected by the inclusion in THPedia of materials which might not pass the Wikipedia test for notability as currently applied by Wikipedia editors. And there are some very questionable decisions that certain Wikipedia editors have made in this regard. The guiding principles of THPedia are described in more detail in the THPedia principles that Josh previously had brought up. So the idea is THPedia is a wiki for the transhumanist community. We don't have to pass Wikipedia standards for notability. I think those standards are overly stringent and subjective. Really, if a person is active and known within the transhumanist community, there should be a THPedia entry about that person. Likewise, if there's a project within the transhumanist community or even tangential but relevant to the transhumanist community, there should be a THPedia page on it. So we hope that this will enable a lot more content to become publicly accessible about transhumanism without the Wikipedia gatekeepers essentially coming in and censoring it because something might not have been published in the New York Times or a similar source. So Wikipedia has a lot of bias toward essentially establishment newspapers and academic journals. And if something is not in one of those, then the Wikipedia editors will at least be highly skeptical of including it. But that is no longer how information spreads online and how factual, well-documented, relevant information is created. So we want to have THPedia be a home and a sanctuary for correct, genuine, factual information that, for whatever reason, might not have made it into the New York Times or some academic journal. So Jason asks, what about negative stuff like the Ben Zienberger incident? We do actually have a page on the Ben Zienberger incident on THPedia, and this wasn't written by me, but I could share it. I will share my screen shortly. So I will just illustrate this because I think this is something that we want to be transparent about. So this is a stub kind of entry. In June 2020, Ben Zion announced the development of the Ben Zienberger, etc. I didn't write this. This was written before. This is an entry on Ben Zion again. It was last updated in 2022, but it's intended to be factual. And if something is factual, even if it's not great publicity, I think it's fine to include it on THPedia. However, make sure it's factual and make sure the other content surrounding it is factual as well. Like the entry about Ben Zion includes his departure from the Transhumanist Party, the fact that we're not associated with him anymore. So I think that is a good way to cover this. Now, also, I'll note that if somebody wishes to be critical of transhumanism and present some information, like person X wrote the following as a criticism of transhumanism, that's fine to include as well, but try to include some countervailing information also. So if person X criticized transhumanism, but person Y responded to the criticism, include the response. Include it in the entry on the criticism to ensure complete coverage. We're not trying to hide anything. We also don't want a selective or skewed portrayal of the facts. And some people do demonize transhumanism through a selective portrayal of the facts. THPedia is supposed to provide an antidote to that. So it's clearly an encyclopedia from a transhumanist perspective. That doesn't mean we ignore the critics, we don't cover them. It means we can cover them, but with the appropriate responses as well. So hopefully that clarifies that question. Xiaomi Redmi 13 says constructive criticism is important. And Mike says, try to avoid solely biased articles. Yes, so if you have an article that's just a complete attack on transhumanism, we wouldn't want that on THPedia. But if you have an article that says the following criticisms have been raised and transhumanists have responded to them in certain ways, that would be perfectly fine. And then Josh writes, if you cannot be unbiased, try to send it to a friend who may have a different view. And Josh, I'll hand it over to you once again if you'd like to share your screen.
Yes. Yeah, just keeping these QR codes up. And if I'm going to give people one last chance to just go through and scan them if they wish, this will take you to the home page, which is just this right here. And then this will take you directly to sign up. So if you want to sign up just directly just from your phone, scan that page. If you're on a computer, once again, you can go to transhumanism.app and then click THPedia. And then you can go down here and then there'll be like a little sign up button. And then one more time. And yes, thank you, Mike Lazine, too. And then once again, if you use Discord, right? If you like using Discord, we do have a working group, and we'll get in there and talk about different articles, and just kind of determine like, okay, if there's a page, should we raise some concern about it, or should we talk about it, or maybe invite others who may not be in the working group to look at a page, comment on it. Morris Johnson on LinkedIn. At some point in time, I'd like to add something about myself as a transhumanist, as well as policy development biohacker. Yeah, that is invited for sure, as long as it's non-biased and just very objective, 100%. Yeah.
Yes, and it's great that we're getting a LinkedIn audience as well. We started streaming on LinkedIn, but Morris, please feel free to create an account on THPedia, create an article about yourself, and then include sources, citations. We will take a look at it. There might be some edits applied if we can find additional sources or in terms of like formatting or grammar, but go ahead and create an entry about yourself.
All right, I see a comment by Super Thin Guy. Say if one person edits in a rebuttal and then someone else enters a rebuttal of the rebuttal, both rebuttals will be included. So that is typically considered, it's called vandalism. We don't like to really use that word. That's just debate. So usually for something like that, we will move it over to the thing called the talk page, right? So we'll go back over here and we'll go to Alcor. Refresh it. We'll move it to the talk page right over here. And then we'll just add a note saying there's been a new discussion opened. These are the two opposing views, and then we'll link the actual users just by the user semicolon their names, and then we'll open up a thing just called a vote for people to say, okay, are they for this edition? Are they against this edition? And then within a week, the whatever has like the most amount of votes, as long as it's beyond reasonable doubt, objective, non-biased information, then that would be what would take predominance. But for archival purposes and historical purposes, that discussion will always be on the respective talk page. So people can see this information and see that, yes, there was a very long discussion about it. Here are the key actors within the discussion. Here are their thoughts, and here was the general consensus on how the information went to the page. A few more questions here. From Daniel, does content on THPedia cross-post to THPedia? So does content from the old THPedia cross-post to the new and vice versa? Yes, we do not have an automated system for that yet, but that is something we're definitely going to explore, aka maybe making some type of notification to send to the editors of TH-Pedia and vice versa. There should be a plugin too to automate that. So yeah, thank you for that. And I'm going to bring up the QR codes for the working group and then just the feedback QR codes at the end. So
Yes.
here's this. And if you have any last questions or thoughts, please leave them in the comments and we would love to answer them.
Yes, absolutely. And I will note right now, we essentially manually reconcile the two sites, but there will be hopefully an option to automate at least portions of that and have a decision process about what gets accepted if a change is made on one site but not on another. I think the key question is going to be, if a change is made on one site, we need to figure out a way to determine the legitimacy of that change before it transfers over to the other site. And let me give you an example. Let's say th-pedia.org has a spam bot attack, and I fended those off recently, not to the same extent as under the old media wiki, but with even this version, sometimes spammers will create accounts essentially peddling various products or dubious services. So if one of those articles gets created, I will notice it and delete it. But before it gets deleted, I wouldn't want it to be automatically ported to thpedia.org because that would just inundate that site with spam. So if we could develop some automated reconciliation process with gatekeeping, essentially saying, okay, we allow this change to move from one site to the other, but not this other change, and this other change we might even reverse on the original site. So, Josh, I'm wondering if you've given some thought to that.
Yeah, certainly. I think right now, just in sense of technological maturity within MediaWiki, there's nothing like that. But I mean, something simple is I think Gennady's already in our Discord server, the THPedia working group. So there's already that log, and if he's in our main server, there's also that wiki log. So for that, I think manually still is the way to go, especially since there's not a lot of pages being added. Very rarely are there pages being added. So yeah, just we both look on that wiki feed and see, okay, is there something on the new site that shows in the wiki feed? Is there something on the old site that shows in the wiki feed? And then yeah, we just look and the editors communicate. One note with like editing, it's not just me, it's not just Gennady who are like patrolling these edits. This is the whole community as a whole, right? It's like anyone can go through and see a page that has bad information and remove it and send a message to the original editor, add it to the talk page. It's not just me, it's not just Gennady. Like this is a community wiki, right? The people, the editors, the patrollers, is the community. It's everyone in the transhumanist community. So yeah, that's just one thing I wanted to preface, especially with biases. Sometimes I might have biases. Sometimes Gennady might have biases. That's why it's a community project, to ensure that those biases are handled as well as possible and that systems are set up to ensure that. Yeah, thank you, Jason, too. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. And Jason has some good words to say about Josh, so I'll pull those up. I'm really glad to have Josh Universe working with us. He's a great asset, a community builder after my own heart, but better than me. Well, we also appreciate Jason's work in building up the transhumanist community. He's been a moderator of various transhumanist groups, our Discord, and also for the Transhuman Club, he created that site and a lot of the functionalities of it, various other websites for the Transhumanist Party of Illinois and the Facebook page United States Transhumanist Party of Illinois. And he has added a lot of educational modules as well for our members to look at. So thank you, Jason, for your contributions and for your good words about Josh. Now, interesting question. Xiaomi Redmi 13 asks, is there a timed countdown before one could edit? We haven't put one in as far as I'm aware. So one can make edits and make multiple edits in succession. Like if you make an edit, but then you have a spelling error that you want to correct, or you want to insert another link or a clarification, you can do that over the course of multiple edits. Now, that does mean the spam bots can do that as well. So we have to be vigilant in that regard. But that's a continuing task, essentially. And what I will say on that is the more legitimate users we have editing the encyclopedia, the more vigilance there is against the spam bots, so they can find spam edits quickly or any sort of non-constructive edits and remove them as well. Yes, and Xiaomi Redmi
Yes.
clarified it is to avoid fast joining bots. Yeah, so I think the best remedy against fast joining bots is fast acting humans, because fast acting humans can spot the bots and deal with them. And that's why we're asking for participation from the transhumanist community. Again, whatever flavor of transhumanist you are, whatever organization you're from, if you have good constructive contributions, we would welcome those. So thank you very much. And then Josh has a further response, so please go ahead.
Yes. So with regard to rate limiting, so like that timeout, we don't, for human editors, we technically do have a timeout, but it's like very like excessive. It's like, I don't know what it personally is, but it's like, say if there is someone who actually made an account, there still is a timer between edits. It's not like something you can like see like when you're editing, because any normal person who is not a robot, right? I mean, some of us are cyborgs, right? But any normal person who is not a robot, they're not going to see that, and they're never going to get to that rate limit. That rate limit is to prevent actual bots, right? Because they have computer resources, and if they have to wait 10 seconds to make an edit, they're likely to not want to go and edit, right? So yeah, we do have rate limits for bots, but also that is on the origin, and the origin is like the server itself. But we also have a lot, well, at least for the new one, we have a lot of cloud-based protection. Like, so it's called the Edge. And how it works is you have an incoming IP address. It comes through a proxy server, and there's several rules. So you have web application rules, you have anti-bot rules. So we have all of those rules set up, configured, deployed, meaning the chance that an actual bot's going to come onto the actual wiki is very low, low beyond a reasonable doubt. And then if someone does, we have those origin safeguards in place to prevent vandalism, right? We have those rate limits. And we have you have to have an account before you can upload a file or create a new page. And then, within that, we can see the person's email that signed up, right? So if maybe it's not like a bot, but like a malicious actor, like a malicious person, we also have more security measures within that. We can see their email. We can see like their IP address, how they came from the wiki, right? So like what is their refer? In extreme situations, like if there is like a very malicious actor, we can see like their actual session. Like we can see what they're doing like on the screen. We like have all of those several like layers of security in the case that we need to like check something out. And it's just log keeping, right? It's important to keep logs, keep different security tools, measures, and systems to ensure that a page actually doesn't get confirmed edited by a bot, right? We have those precautionary measures in place. So with regard to THPedia, there really shouldn't be any bot issues, but if there are, please let us know, and we will do our best to prevent that.
Actually, I have just learned that there have been a few bot accounts on th-pedia.org that were created as we were speaking. So I'm going to use this as an opportunity to demonstrate what I'm going to do with them. So I will share my screen. The situation is getting intense, and when we go to th-pedia.org, what I would do as the administrator is go to recent changes here, and I see this user creation log. And right now, these users haven't posted any articles, but I know they're going to if I leave them alone. And these users have very strange usernames like self-cleaning robot 1567 or robot vacuum and mop UK 6072. So whenever you have these users with 4 numbers after the names, I think you can pretty much be certain that these are spam bots, especially if they refer to specific products. They're not even trying to hide it. And yes, we like robotic vacuum cleaner technology, but not if you're just selling one particular kind and we don't know if it's legitimate and you're trying to use the site to generate revenue for one particular robot cleaner. So we think these are all bots. And I can go to user creation log here, and I can see which users have been created. So these two, the automatic that
Gennady, we lost your audio.
yes. So I'm going to block this user here, and we know that it's going to post some articles unless I block it. So I can choose a site-wide block. I can block it doing anything, sending email, editing its talk page. I can block it for an indefinite amount of time. I can select a reason, the reason being spamming links to external sites. I can include alerts for any activity from this user and click block this user. And you can see this automatic vacuum cleaner has been blocked. And we've got another one here for another user that was recently on the site, going to block that user as well. So we've got this self-cleaning robot. Sorry, but if you have 1567 or another 4-digit number, I don't think you are a genuine contributor who is going to substantively post good, constructive articles. You're probably going to try to sell something on THPedia. So I'm going to block this self-cleaning robot. We don't believe that it is sentient. So anyway, that's just a demonstration of some of our capabilities. And we've got about 2.5 minutes remaining in our salon. I would say thank you very much to everybody who joined us in the comments. We've got a QR code for the presentation feedback. My apologies for a few of the technical mishaps with the internet access, but hopefully you got a lot of substance out of it and a lot of guidance about how to edit either the stable site or the experimental site, what the future of these sites will bring, and really the magnitude of the task before us, because I do think we have a lot of work to do to update a lot of these entries, make sure we reflect current developments, and make sure that this is truly a resource for everyone in the transhumanist community. Josh, in the next minute and 30 seconds, do you have any concluding remarks?
Yeah, I mean, same. I definitely. Yeah, sorry, I had a very bad message come through during the midstream, and then I think there were like a few technical issues with THPedia, like when editing and stuff. So yeah, besides that, yeah, thank you. If you have any questions, but you're not able to fit in now, please scan this or here, go scan one of these QR codes. Send me a message on LinkedIn. Anyone can message me. You don't have to be connected. My contact page, my link tree. Send me questions. Lewis said, is that the Canva platform? Yes, indeed. It is the Canva platform. It is my favorite platform because it allows you to do all sorts of stuff. They released a new update where you can create spreadsheets in Canva now, which is kind of cool. And I think documents too. Well, you can already do documents. So I think it's just the spreadsheets. So it's really cool that you can do all sorts of stuff with Canva. It's pretty affordable too. So yeah, thank you, everyone. And if you have any questions, just let me know. And I'll be in all the Discords too.
All right. Thank you very much, Josh. And thank you to our audience. We had a lot of great engaging questions and feedback. And I hope that everyone who watched the stream will consider participating in making THPedia the kind of resource that we would like to see for the entire transhumanist community, with continuous updates, with relevant current information to help us all live long and prosper.